We did it right there. So, alright, let's check out replays, search for match ID. You said you were the offlane? Which team? Dire, I'm assuming? Offlane... Oh, you're right here. You're Pheonix. Okay. Why do you want me to watch this one? What about it? Just like how the laning phase went? How the... Yeah, you're Radiant Pheonix. I got it. Because you got your Thug Life. Thug Life. Offlane tips. I mean, offlane tips are there are hundreds of offlane tips. That's the thing about the offlane. Like, the offlane isn't a formula. Like, the mid lane is a formula, right? You follow the formula. You push the wave at a minute 30, you get the rune. You know, you play defensive, you zone the enemy mid, and then you try to kill them when other people gank for your lane. Like, that's basically the mid lane, right? The offlane is like, here's a list of 500 things, of which you're going to only need like 3 or 4, because those are the only 3 that really apply to your game. But, it's definitely tough. I think matchup's like a big one. So like, when did you pick this game? So you picked early. So this is like, I think this is a mistake when it comes to drafting, just in general. I think when you draft for the offlane, you want to pick offlaners that are really self-sustainable and not susceptible to getting shut down. Because right now, if they pick a silencer support, you will get absolutely nothing from your lane as a Pheonix. Right? Do you know why Silencer counters Pheonix so hard? Well, if you don't, because I don't want to wait for the delay for you to say so, but the reason that Silencer counters Pheonix so hard is that when you silence him with his E, right, you silence Pheonix, he can't dive away. Because if he dives, he gets silenced mid-dive, and what that means is that he basically does like a loop and comes directly back and is slowed and dies. Like, it's instant free kills all game, and then Silencer ruins your laning phase. He ruins your entire mid game, to be honest, because he just globals before you can egg, right? And then and then you basically have to build like BKB on Pheonix, you know, like something really stupid to get out of global so that you can use your spells. Like, it's really, really hard, and I think, you know, most of the time, you know, you don't necessarily have that luxury. A lot of times you got to pick, you know, heroes early on. And like in my Basics of Slardar guide, I talk about when you first pick an offlane, you got to learn to play versus your counters. And it's definitely possible to play Pheonix versus Silencer, but it's very hard. It's just like playing Slardar versus Slark. It's very hard to play versus Slark. But you can play versus him. There's some counterplay options. There's some counterplay options for Pheonix. But, you know, in a vacuum, you're going to lose that lane. And so heroes I like to defer to in the offlane, in general, are heroes who are very self-sustaining and don't really care who they're going against in the offlane and can still be successful. And so those heroes are typically the, like, creep blockers of the world. So the, like, Tuskars, the Earthshakers, the Earth Spirits, you know, they manipulate the creep wave in such a way that they can basically get experience no matter what tri-lane or dual lane or whatever they're against. And then the creep pullers of the world, so the summoners, the like Lone Druid and the Nature's Prophets. So like those are the 5 offlaners that I think to pick, you know, early on, because, you know, you can pull the creep wave to farm. The other offlaners who are good are the junglers, which are the like the Dark Seers, the Dooms, the you know, people, if they get zoned out of their lane, they can just go into the jungle and get levels and experience, right? Those are the heroes I think to when I don't know what matchup I'm going to be playing against, right? Pheonix, Slardar, you know, these heroes that they need a good lane to do things they're fine offlaners. Don't get me wrong. Like, you can offlane a lot of shit. Like, you know, what's his face? Waga offlaned OD into me. You know, like, that shit can happen, and it can be really good. But if you don't have a lane to go to, and you don't have anything to fall back on, like, it's a big, big issue. So, picking, first thing, right? Pheonix, good hero, don't get me wrong. I don't think he's a bad hero. I just, you know, he's bad against certain heroes. That's all. So, we'll start with the opener. And we'll see. I want to start way before. I'm going to watch this at like faster speed. So you get out pretty fast. You get your ward down. The ward spot I like, usually with this camp, is right here. because it's outside of range of the most common D ward spot. Like, you can put it in there if you want to, but I think you pick between that spot, or you pick between like here. The reason you pick here is that you can see like rotations on the ramp, which is really nice. And then like if they have that D ward, it's okay, but like this ward does nothing, right? This ward right here is just a bad ward because, yeah, I mean, it blocks the camp, right? But it gets dewarded by the most common deward spot, and then it doesn't offer you the extra vision that a ward right here would offer you. Right? This blocks here, but it's way better for you defensively because you can see up here and you can see down here. Whereas all you're seeing here is what you would be seeing from this ward right here. So pick between here and pick between here. Right? This is the harder to deward spot. Like, it's like right on this path, about to the left of this tree. So it's like right here, this like crack. Like, it's there or it's here. Right? You can sometimes put it here too. Like, this is okay. But like, you can obviously see like this is the best D ward. The advantage of this spot right here, or the disadvantage of this spot, is that it's like really commonly dewarded because offlaners will sometimes put the ward here, and so like this can sometimes be a common sentry, but most of the time it's this sentry every time. So you play around this sentry, and that's what this ward does. So small things. Then we go to your player perspective, and we're gonna see if you block. You're like watching other stuff. So this is a small thing, but you definitely want to stand in such a position that you can contest top rune if you can. And this is, you know, you didn't get out fast enough to get your ward down, but if you're standing in a position where you can contest this top rune, like sometimes they're not going to reveal themselves. In lower MMR brackets, they're going to reveal themselves, so you're going to have like a really good idea of what the frick's going on. There's 4 heroes top. But sometimes they'll like 4 hero bottom, and that means that it's 1v1 to get this rune top, right? Because it's you and that's it, versus their carry. And like as a Pheonix, you can like dive and steal it and weird stuff like that, right? But most of the time, like, you need to make sure that the bounty rune trade goes evenly. And what standing here does is it basically, you're in position such that if they go 5 heroes for the bottom rune, somebody gets the top rune and it's not them, right? Small thing. I'm like flaming you before the game even starts. It's funny. Then we'll check out your laning perspective. You like watch the team fight bottom. You end up running back to block early, which I think is good. Where do you walk after you ward? I usually walk back left. Like, usually the path that I take is this one, where I just walk back this way, and then I come back through the jungle to here, and then I chill here. You gotta leave immediately. Like, if you leave immediately, you can get there in time. But it's you have like 1 or 2 seconds from the start of the game. And then if you're on like a slower hero, like sometimes like Pheonix is a little bit too slow. Like slower heroes, it actually makes a big difference. Because if you think like what movement speed is just a number that so in 1 second you will move 285 units. That's what movement speed is, like defined as. And so what that means is like a hero like Enchantress, for example, will move 330 units in 1 second because that's her base movement speed. And so over the course of 5 seconds, right, she's essentially like 250 units away from you or ahead of you. So she'll move way, way faster than you. So like an Enchantress doesn't usually have issues and can like dilly-daddle. But Pheonix cannot, because Pheonix is slow as balls. Cool? So we'll check out your block. Pretty bad. What do you focus on when you block? Because like big thing I like to look at is the circle under your hero. Like if you use the circle under your hero to block, that's like the best way to not block. You can see how like your circle is kind of like to the left of him, so he's too far ahead. So visually focus on the circle, don't focus on the Pheonix. Like your wing is in the way, but the wing is not going to block him because the circle's behind him. Do you see what I mean? Like the hero is very cool, but is very cool looking, but it actually has no effect on blocking. And so here, a lot of the times when I fail my block like this, I'll actually just block such that 1 creep leaves. Like ideally you want the range creep to go, but you know, if you mess up and you let 1 creep go, you want to separate the wave as best you can. And so like, you know, you really did a crappy job blocking here. This is all like pre-game stuff. Now, we got to talk about the matchup, okay? So how do you die in this matchup? You're playing against a Venge and a Jug, so it's a dual lane situation where the way you die in this matchup is you get stunned and you get Blade Furied. Now, you'll be able to dive away most of the time before they're able to do enough damage to kill you, unless you've taken like a third of your HP bar, or we'll say a third of your HP bar first, and then you might die during the duration of the stun. So keeping your HP really high is going to be a high priority for you in this laning phase. The other thing that you have to keep in mind is if you get stunned, if you get magic missile during a dive, you will die. So don't get stunned during your dive, right? Keep in mind, like, so what you're focused on when you're watching that in lane is you're watching the Vengeful Spirits like animation, right? So we'll watch it from your perspective. Like, do you see how much I've flamed you in the first like 20 seconds of the game? Do you see what I mean? Like, there's always room to improve. Feel kind of bad doing it, but small things. So here, like, do you know what the range is for experience? Because you missed experience on that creep. Like, that's a big deal. You want to get level 2 on Pheonix really early. And they did like a nice block here, right? So you're like hiding in the trees, and I think this is like perfectly viable. But one way you can win these lanes, and I think, if I were walking up this lane in terms of my positioning, I would have walked to the right here. And the reason I'd walk to the right is that I'm expecting to like run into the Venge. Like, ideally a good Venge will be standing right here and she'll be there ready to fight you. But this Venge is in a really bad position, and you can actually punish this really, really hard. So what I would do is I would walk to here, and I would just not come into vision. I'd sneak into experience range for that creep, right? And then what I'd do is I'd prep to pull this side camp, right? That's like a really good way to win the offlane, is you want to just basically, like, biggest things about the offlane is you want to mess with their equilibrium somehow, right? And pulling this side wave is essentially turning your offlane into a safe lane. And so if you're here, right, just chilling, you don't necessarily have to be doing anything. You see the Venge comes to pull, so you would have vision of that right here, and then you eat this tree and you pull this side wave right here. And what that ends up going to do is that you have wildkins here. The best camps for destroying creeps are the Hellbear Smashers, because they clap when 3 units are nearby, so they literally will just kill all 3 of the creeps. And when Radiant creeps die to neutrals, they give no experience, right? But if these guys come up and they get the last hits on them, then they're going to give some experience, right? Same normal experience that you would expect. But they have to get all the last hits right. So what you're hoping for as an offlane is that this camp spawns like Wildkins or Hellbear Smashers, because they kill creeps really fast. The Satyrs are the worst example. Those are the ones you definitely don't want, but because they just don't do very much damage. And the Trolls, their damage got buffed last patch, so they're like in the middle. They're not like bad, but they're not like good. It just kind of depends. But that's definitely where you want to be right now, because what you're doing, you're sitting in the trees. Like, you've gotten experience from 2 or 1 out of the 3 creeps that have died. Like, that's really, really bad as an offlaner, especially when you're under 0 pressure from this support. Now, like, why am I harping on this so much? The first wave determines a lot in the offlane. If you get zoned in the first wave, your game will be ridiculously hard from that point, because things start to snowball, right? So you have to make sure you do the first wave right. Like, focus on this. Focus on how important this first minute is. Then we're going to go back to your perspective. Like, I like this. This is cheeky, right? Like, it's okay to be scared, right? But you have more regen than the Venge. Like, this is why you build a lot of regen as an offlaner, because your goal most of the time is that the support has to buy support items. They got to buy like wards and sentries, and they got to pool their mid tangos, because their mid's, always an invoker who's like, I need tangos, like that kind of stuff. Which means that you're able to spend more gold on regen, which means that most of the time you want to like force a fight with this offlaner and trade regen, because you have more. So eventually what will happen is that the support will have to play defensive, and like that's why, like, instead of just walking immediately into the trees, you just walk to fight the support in a situation where the carry is not going to fight with them. And then if the carry moves to try to help, you just back, right? And then if the carry goes back to farming, then you go back to fighting the support. And again, it's just about trading your regen to the point where the support can no longer fight you. Like, sometimes on Pheonix, you'll take fire spirits at 1, and it's because the support just can't trade it with you. And a lot of the times I like to do that versus carries that don't have some way of getting rid of it. So if the carry comes to like support or whatever, and then like the support stuns you, then you can fire spirit the carry and just walk away because they don't have enough attack speed to deal with you. So like your skill build in a lot of ways doesn't make any sense either. Right? Like, save your skill points. That's what I'm trying to say. You know, your inexperience range from this. This is like a small thing. Like, do you know what the range for experience is? You're out of range for this thing, I think. Yeah, you see that. The range for experience is about 1100. So just go into a custom game and do Dota range display 1100. You gotta have cheats on. Type that in, and then just kind of get like a sense of what it is. It's not like a perfect thing. The way I like to think about it in terms of my vision is that most of the time 1100 range, like if I stand at the corner of this screen, 1100 range is about like right here. Sort of like this first picture. That's about 1100 range. Like, you just have to give yourself kind of like a visual key for how it looks. And I think, you know, starting with like the left side of the screen and then picking a point sort of like on the scoreboard, which is always constant, will give you some idea. And then you're like, well, you know, I'm standing right here. That's about like this far away from the screen. Then, you know, that's about this far in. And you can see, like, we'll go back and we'll look at the creep that you're missing experience on, which is this guy. Like, I can clearly tell that this is out of range. Do you see what I mean? So you're level 2. So all of these things I talked about, all of them, don't matter at all in your games because people aren't good enough to deal with them. But when you play against good players, you've got to start making these smart movements. Otherwise, you're just going to get zoned and owned. That's a big thing. But again, sitting in the creep wave. Again, what could you be doing? Right? You could be pulling this camp. Right? You've missed 2 opportunities to pull this camp in the first minute and 36 seconds. And I'm not going to continue to harp on it, but all game you could be pulling that camp. Do you see what I mean? Like, being sneaky is fine. Their lane is scary. They're a Jug, right? Jug's very scary as a carry. Just like Venge, very scary, right? Venge hits really hard, has a lot of damage early on. Like, but you're playing too scared. Like, this is play that you would do versus a tri-lane, right? But there's no tri-lane. It's going to be an Enigma. Like 100% in the jungle, which means it's 100% going to be you versus these two, which means that you can trade with this support. And you have to think about that. You know, if you're going to run into 2 supports here, you definitely don't want to move that way. And I think your movement up into the trees here would be completely fine because you're trying to avoid both the supports because you can't afford to trade against 2 heroes. Like, that seems much more logical to me. So, like, what you're doing isn't bad support, isn't bad offlane play. Like, if I were to give a tips and tricks video, I'd be like, you can hide in the trees and you can get experience, and that's a really good way to do it. But it's the situation that's relevant for when you do those things, right? And you didn't judge the situation correctly, and so your offlane play has been bad. But your movements aren't, they're offlane things. Like, you're doing offlane things, you're just doing them at the wrong time. That's why the offlane's so hard. There's no, like, formula. You don't show up to lane, you get last hits on Shadow Fiend, oh, I got souls now, and then you just last hit the crap out of them. You've got to think, and you've got to be on your feet every 30 seconds. What am I doing? What do I do? Like, this is the thing that's important. This is what I should be focused on. This is the lane I'm going against. This is what I'm worried about dying. You've got to factor all those things in very, very quickly. And I think that's why the offlane in a lot of ways is so frustratingly fun. Because if you make like one mistake, you instantly die. But if you do it right, then you're doing okay. And like, again, just leeching experience, right? Could be pulling this side camp. Do you see what I mean? This lane is going to stay here forever. You have no way to influence this wave without pulling this side camp, which is why you need to be pulling this side camp. The way you get farm is by messing with that experience. And like you do it at 2 minutes, right? But it's, a minute and a half too late, which means that this guy has gotten 10 last hits, which means he's now got boots. And so now you're worried about getting chased down after your dive because you essentially gave him too much time to farm items. Right? He screws up his aggro, his equilibrium, he pushes the wave, they've got 2 range creeps. Like, this is bad play by him. But this is good play by you. And then what you end up getting is you get an opportunity to last hit under the tower. And what we're going to do is, like, I wouldn't stick around for that, but you end up diving here to get experience. Okay, that's okay. I wouldn't say that's great. You end up missing a last hit. But, like, you want to move appropriately when you pull this side camp. This is like, when you pull this, you don't want to walk with it because you're not necessarily going to the creep wave to get the experience. What you want to be doing is you want to be standing sort of right here, because a lot of times what supports will do is they'll try to pull this creep wave into this creep wave, and the way they do that is they walk here and they just kind of stand here, and if they take damage, then this creep wave will get pulled, and then your pull basically gets negated because it gets pulled back into your creep wave. And so that's a mistake by you. It's also a mistake by this Venge. This Venge is completely out of position, just sitting behind her carry, has no idea what she's doing. But when you pull this side wave, as an offlaner, you want to stand right here. And your goal is these guys are going to walk inside that 500 aggro range, and then they're going to aggro to you. And the point of doing that is you pull them to the left, which makes it impossible to aggro to this wave. Okay? Rather than like kind of sit here in the trees, because these creeps are not going to die fast enough. This is not a Hellbear Smasher camp. You got to think about what the neutral camp is, and I think we'll see how you do last hitting under their tower. But what ends up happening is these 2 creeps get pulled and aggroed to those creeps, and so you end up missing the experience here. Here you end up missing a last hit, so that's 1. Now you got to think about what's my damage under tower, and this is why last hitting is really important in the off lane. Because most of your last hitting in the offlane is going to be under the tower, which means you need to be really good at last hitting under tower, and you need to know the damage values to last hit well under tower. Right? This is right here. Like, how do I know if I can get this last hit? So what you need to do is you need to click the creep. So this is like a small thing. If you watch like a pro stream, you'll see them do this. You missed one last hit there that you could have gotten. But here, you click the creep and you see what his HP is. Now, how much damage does a tower do to a creep? Right? Well, it varies, right? It's not a like fixed thing. There's like a damage range, right? But in general, with the armor value of creeps, towers do about 100 damage. About. And so what that means is when you look at this creep, right? Well, like armor value counts. Like it reduces some of the damage too. So it's about 100, but it's a range. It's like it's somewhere between like 80 to 120. It's not like a specific number. That's just true of all attack values, and some heroes like Chaos Knight or PL have really wide ranges, and then other heroes like Queen of Pain have very small ranges. That's just like a very specific thing about Dota that there's really no tooltip for, but becomes really important. So what you do is when you're sitting here as a Pheonix, you click this creep and you say how much HP does it have? And you say, instantly you say 218, right? That means that 2 tower shots will kill this creep, probably, because you've got a couple of creeps killing it. So that means you need to get 2 auto attacks in. So you need to hit it now, and then you need to hit it again before the second auto attack hits. Do you see what I mean? So like you could click it sort of right here, 330. Do you see what I mean? So you can either take the risk that the tower is going to roll low 3 times and is going to hit this creep, and these creeps are going to hit this creep for less than 20 damage, and then go for the last hit that way. And I don't think that's the way to go for that last hit. You click it, you realize it, you hit it twice. Like, you needed to be able to hit it twice in that time, and hit it when it had that 102 HP. Do you see what I mean? Like, you needed to hit it once to deal 55 damage, and then hit it again to deal the extra 55 damage to get that last hit. And then here, again, click the creep, see how much HP it has. 253, that means it's probably going to take 1 tower shot, maybe 2, and then you probably want to wait until after it. But, this last hit you could have gotten for sure. The other one's a bit tricky. You don't really have enough attack speed most of the time as an offlaner to to do that like double hitting more than once or twice under the tower. Like, so you're not necessarily always going to be able to get every creep, like especially if the creeps end up having low HP, but just something to think about. And then here you end up missing these last hits, but that's not entirely your fault, because these creeps got disjointed from the wave because you didn't pull properly up here, so you didn't get the opportunity to try to last hit them. Do you see what I mean? Like, this movement where you were sitting under the tree right here, like, matters in terms of farming under your tower later, but it doesn't necessarily matter now. So, something to think about. More offlaning. But, you know, in the offlane, like, in general, this is going okay. And then if we check, like, what's Jug's items, Jug is not building boots, so you don't have to play around boots, right? He's just using the courier, which is stupid. He can buy this item from the side shop, he can buy this item from the side shop. This is just bad play by Jug, right? Venge has done nothing, has no items, hasn't pulled, didn't buy sentries, can't deward your ward. Like, do you see how, like, the bad plays add up? And you can take advantage of so many of them. This is the first 3 minutes, dude. First 3 minutes. That's all we're talking about. So here, now as a Pheonix, like, how does Pheonix exert pressure in the lane? Well, Pheonix does it by using fire spirits. But one of the things to think about is, how do I die in this lane? Again, you lose, if you're at like a third HP, or if you're at a 2/3 HP, and you get stunned with like a spinning Omni Knight on you, you might just die before you're able to dive away. And the thing that's kind of unique about Pheonix is that his spells cost HP in addition to costing mana. Like, this spell costs mana in addition to HP, but this spell doesn't cost any mana. So this one you can just use, but it costs your HP, sort of thing. And so before you use Spire Spirits, most of the time you want to Tango, right? Because you're going to lose 20% of your HP. I mean, it's less than that with magic resistance, but you want to preemptively Tango to keep your HP pool high such that you can start to do Pheonix things, which is harass with fire spirits. Because that's how you win the lane in a lot of ways. You mess with their equilibrium, and then you use fire spirits really well. And I think what I'm going to see here is you're just going to sit here. You tried to pull aggro there, that's good. You just missed the range. You pulled aggro there, that's good. Venge shows up, he howls you. Like, you could have disjointed the wave there if you'd pulled properly. You end up missing another last hit here. But, you know, at least you're trying. So that's good. So, here, you throw a fire spirit. This is like an okay fire spirit. So when's the best time to throw fire spirits, right? Best time to throw fire spirits is when they go for last hits. So, right here, like, maybe you're scared or something. But again, you use your fire spirits, you lose about 80 HP, 100 HP, something around those lanes. And she's obviously backing, right? But you kind of panic and you don't react fast enough and you miss your fire spirit. But here, like, when you're waiting to throw your fire spirit, this guy's 100% going to go for this last hit right now. Like, I would throw a fire spirit right here, every time. Do you see what I mean? You're trying to hit the Venge. Like, just throw it on the carry, you know? Don't worry about it. And then the Venge shows up here. Like, you throw the fire spirit. These are like very micro decisions, and you got to be right on point when you get them. But hitting your spirits is really important. Like, she's walking around here. I would throw a fire spirit right here, right now, because she's committed her movement for the next second, right? She's right here, and she's going to be moving this way, probably to come around the tree here. You could throw a fire spirit right now, and you would hit her right on top of her. Do you see what I mean? This movement, she's committed her movement to moving here for a second. Throw a fire spirit right here. Do you see what I mean? It's a little bit like, that was a good fire spirit. I like that one. Same thing. You get stunned here. She can't really hit you. Like, this is good understanding of Pheonix, right? No reason to run there because the attack speed is so bad that they usually just can't hit you. So if you hit the fire spirit, you just turn and fight most of the time rather than backing. Like, if this carry decided to play aggro on you, sure, then you back. But this is what you want to do. You're fighting the support, you're trading your regen for their regen, and you have more of it. And then you end up getting a 1v1 versus the safe laner. So again, last hitting under tower. How do we do? You get that one. Nice. How do we do? You missed that one. Okay, this is a tricky one to get, but I'm going to talk about how you get this last hit. This last hit is all about timing your attack to land right after the tower's attack. So what you want to do is, this tower, it's going to throw its projectile, and you want your projectile to land the instant that the tower's projectile lands. So you kind of want to, like, this is like a hero specific thing and really just kind of a feel thing, and as you become better at last hitting, you'll get better at doing this timing right. But you had a split second window to get that last hit, and if you had done the timing right, you would have gotten it. Okay, but you missed it because you didn't do the timing quite right. And again, here, you missed this last hit because you pre-hit it when you didn't want to. So this, again, comes back to clip the HP of the creep. Right? So right here, right, he's attacking that range creep, you're out of position for it. This one you missed, like you tried to get the range creep and then you like missed and you may have lagged or something or whatever. But your auto attack basically went off because you committed an auto attack to the range creep of which you were out of range for, and then you end up hitting this creep here. And then you come up, and because you pre-hit this, now you basically put it in a situation where you can no longer get the last hit. Do you see what I mean? Small fuck-ups. Small. But these things matter. You know, you're a 2-0 Pheonix at 4 minutes, when you could very easily be like a 14-0 Pheonix at 2 minutes, which means you'd have Tranquils up, and you'd have, you know, maybe your next item, maybe a magic stick. You know, like, that's a lot of gold. 12 last hits? It's a lot, you know? And like Pheonix, like, you're not necessarily in the offlane all the time to deny the safe lane farmer. The safe lane farmer is going to get what the safe lane farmer gets, you know? And you don't have a great matchup here because they picked a Jug. Jug does really well with Pheonix, and this again comes back to you picking Pheonix early, and they kind of picked a carry that's pretty good against you. But your last hits right now are 8 or 9 below where they could be very easily. So let's keep watching this. We'll keep watching to the end of the laning phase. Here you're just hitting this creep for no reason. Like, the thing I want you to be taking advantage of here is you can use your fire spirits if you want to at this point, but so you could be using your fire spirits at this point. I think right here I would just be pulling aggro to try to mess with the tower, or to mess with the aggro. So I would try to pull these creeps under the tower and then get last hits that way, rather than like trying to soft deny from max range. But I think this is a mistake too. Like here I would walk up and pull aggro, or I would be hitting the Jug. One of the two, because like Venge is left, and I don't know what Venge is doing. There's like a very good chance that Venge is trying to pull this side camp, if I had to guess. Right, because this is what supports will do most of the time. Like, if they don't have sentries for this camp, what they'll try to do is they'll try to push the wave and then pull this side camp against you. And the way you deal with that as an offlaner is you pull the creep wave into your tower, such that if they do that, what happens is that your creep wave will push into their tower, and you'll be able to contest the farm here at the side pull. Right? And so I think the mistake here is not pulling aggro under the tower to get this creep wave dead as fast as you can, so that you can anticipate contesting this side camp pull. And instead you're like trying to out last hit contested Jug, which is like really hard to do. He's got a Quelling Blade and he's got a Ring of Aquila, so he basically hits creeps for like 100 and something odd damage. Like, I would not be wasting my time trying to contest last hits with that guy, especially as a Pheonix. I have 58 base damage. He's like, it's like twice as hard as you do when it comes to creeps. Like, chances of you contesting a last hit and getting it are very, very low. Here you miss a last hit on a tower, you get one. Pre-hit that at the wrong time. Do you see what I mean? Like, very similar mistakes. These things are very, very hard to get good at. You get a nice last hit there. And they take time. And, you know, to think that quickly on the spot is a very difficult thing to do. But definitely something to think about. Here, you're getting close to your Tranquils, so this is 400, so that's 750, so you're pretty close to your Tranquils. I think right now, like, this is again the same situation. I'd want to be pulling the creep wave to contest that pull, but she gets a deny off. Like, right now, I would buy my Tranquils and I would start to send them out, and then what I would do is I would play aggressively with my HP to try and deal a lot of damage before my Tranquils got out. Because I'll just heal off all the damage with the Tranquils. I also have a salve. I'd be clicking this Venge saying like, oh, she's got two 2 tangos or whatever. You know, this jug, he's got 1 tango. Like, if you can get these guys low in HP, a lot of jugs are really stupid and they won't actually level their healing ward. But if you are able to sort of deal with all of their regen, that's like a really good way of winning the offlane. So, you know, anticipate what's going to happen. The next 30 seconds, you're going to use the courier to deliver your tranquils, and then play aggressive during that time with your HP without dying, right? And then use your regen more effectively than they're using it. You know, use your salve. It's okay to use yourself, especially if you've got your tranquils being delivered. Now, courier's sitting in the base. Sometimes, like, you can't always plan your movements because, you know, the mid needs a courier or whatever, and, like, this mid doesn't necessarily need the courier. He's not necessarily buying anything right now. So sometimes when you use the courier, like what a lot of people will do is instead of like sort of buying your items with whatever your quick buy option is, and then using the courier immediately, you'll see what pros do is they have the courier bound, and they'll click to the courier and they'll see what items they have, and then like double click it to get, you know, move to wherever the courier is and see where it's moving, and then decide whether or not they should send it to him. I think Ringer Protection was fine. Ringer Protection is like pretty standard opener on Pheonix. I don't think your build was bad. I think I would have not gotten the Ironwood branches, but that's just kind of preference. I think you go the Ironwood branches if you're looking to last hit a lot, and I don't think you were necessarily looking to last hit against them. I think you were looking to play the creep equilibrium game with them, then try to outlast hit carries. Like, stats are really good for trying to outlast hit people, and that's why in the mid lane most of the time you have people who go very stat heavy items as opposed to others. Like, they're expecting to get farm. Whereas in the offlane, you aren't always expecting to get farm. And, you know, when you're playing the creep equilibrium more and you're last hitting under tower and you're doing that kind of stuff, you really don't need GG branches. You just need to understand how to last hit under tower, right? It's definitely easier with items, don't get me wrong, but your build is fine. It's just not what I would have built. I think the Ring of Protection's okay, especially because you have a low armor value and you're going against a Venge. And if like Venge howls you, that's a lot of damage to take. So, you know, from that perspective, it's good. But you probably just bought it because it was a standard item build. But I would have bought the Ring of Protection mostly because they had a Venge. Right? Venge does a lot of right-click damage. Especially like a lot of Venges on support will take Wave of Terror at levels 1 to harass better. And they'll get like a Mango or something. Like, that's a really good build for a Venge if you want to zone someone, is you go like level 1 Wave of Terror with like a Mango and a set of Tangos, and it's like very regen heavy, and then you're not getting the clarities because you're not wasting money, a lot of mana on Magic Missile, which costs 3 times as much as Wave of Terror, and then you basically just zone by running into the wave and, you know, abusing the fact that Venge as a hero has a pretty high armor value of 5. And you just abuse the Mango regen as well as the low mana cost on Wave of Terror, and that's like a really viable way of playing her as support. You still level your, like, some people will leave the stun at 1, and like if they're doing a really good job harassing, they'll max the Wave of Terror, but not usually. So, but here, like, unnecessary Fire Spirit, right? You're throwing it at the wrong time. Like, I like that you're getting aggressive with the Fire Spirits right now, but again, like, what are they going for? They're going for nothing. Right? They're not in position to get a last hit here. There's no reason to use your Fire Spirits. Bad timing. Right? Wait until he goes for a last hit. You know, same thing. He's going to go for this last hit right now. He's like committed himself. Like, he got a crit there, so he got a little unlucky. So maybe now is not a good time to throw it. But you end up hitting him anyway. You know, like, again, bad Fire Spirit. Here he gets a little aggro on you. He's going to go for this last hit, right? Throw a Fire Spirit right now. Boom. That was a good Fire Spirit. I liked it. Like, that was an okay Fire Spirit. I don't think there was any reason to throw that one. Let's take a look. Yeah, this was just a lucky Fire Spirit. I'd say this is a bad one, right? He basically just didn't juke it. So that's the reason your Fire Spirit hit. Like, you never want they didn't juke it to be the reason that your Fire Spirits hit. You want to throw your Fire Spirits at times that make sense. And if you're doing it right, if you're throwing your Fire Spirits when they're going for last hits, right? What you do is you throw your Fire Spirit and then you go in for the deny, right? Because, like, they can't hit the creep. So if they get hit by the Fire Spirit, they won't have the attack speed to do anything, so you'll be able to get the deny. or you can hit them if you're looking to get a kill and be more aggressive. Like, that's the essence of Pheonix. Pheonix screws up last hitting with his spirits in the way that it's basically an uncontested thing for them. Like, the only way Jug gets that last hit is he spins and dodges the fire spirit, but he doesn't want to use his spin for that reason. Like, that's crazy, you know? It's a complete waste of mana on his part. But that's what you do with Pheonix. You throw the spirit, they can't attack, you go for the deny, and then you pull the wave back. Like, and then if they get their HP low like this, you know, then what you do is you wait for your fire spirits to come up and hope that they don't have enough regen, which this guy doesn't have enough regen. He didn't skill healing ward, like, made a huge mistake. But because you seeded so much farm early and you were too late to come on, now he's got a ring of health, and so he becomes a bigger issue for you to deal with. Do you see what I mean? Like, it's too late. At 6 minutes, it's too late because he has too much farm. The offlane is really tricky. It's really, really tricky, and you're going to screw it up a lot, especially when you start playing it. Here, bad fire spirit. Right? What was the point of it? Right? Like, where is this fire spirit going? Like, why is Jug gonna walk up here? It's like a guess. It's a lucky guess. And maybe it hits, maybe it doesn't. But, like, his movement, he's definitely gonna go for one of these last hits. Like, Ven just committed herself to being aggressive. That was a good fire spirit, except that you misclicked it. Right? Now you get stunned, but because your HP is high enough, I guess you just stun, because you're level 6. You should have died here. This is 100% a death on your pulp, but I think you end up getting a kill. Yeah, Jug man down. Throw a fire spirit. Alright, and then TA rotates in. Alright, so there was some bad stuff going on here. We're going to watch this again. So you're level 6. So I guess you're looking to get a kill. Yeah, you're looking to get aggressive, right? The old spinning Jug bug. So here you throw a bad fire spirit. Not the best. Here you throw this spirit. Again, not a good fire spirit. Definitely a good time to get a fire spirit, though. Then here, he spins on top of you. You throw a fire spirit on top of this Venge. And if this Jug just stays on top of you and right-clicks the sun, you die and you get no kills. Right? Like, big thing on Pheonix, you want to make sure you use all of your spells before you get your sun off. Right? Which means that even if you dive for, like, a really small distance, it can be a big difference. So, like, here, right, instead of dropping my sun just right on the spot and not wasting sort of my dive, I would have dove to here. Like, I would have, like, the way you do that, because the dive's kind of like an arc, right? So you got to dive a kind of very specific way. So instead of clicking, like, right on this Venge, because what that's going to cause you to do is dive like this, you want to click sort of to the right of the Venge. So you want to dive to here, and then you'll go right over the Venge, and then you sun directly on top of the Venge. So then at least, right, Jug has to run during, you know, the first second of your ult, and then you have a little bit more time to maybe survive, and then maybe with the fire spirit you end up surviving. But, like, this Jug completely misplayed. He just ran away because he was scared of the sun, even though he was completely magic immune. Makes no sense to me. But, like, you shouldn't play around, like, you shouldn't expect players to make bad plays. You should play the play that's the good play. But you wasted your dive beforehand. Here, like, you dove kind of too far. Like, I think this is understanding the damage potential of Pheonix, where, like, how much damage does a level 3 fire spirit do, right? And how much HP is this Venge at? Like, one thing that's really cool about HP bars is that there are very, like, specific markings on the HP bar, and you can change this. You can go into your settings and change this. But every single mark is 250 HP. So if I click your HP right now, if I had to guess what your HP is, I would guess that it's about 580, right? Just based on what the bars look like. And then if I click your hero, right, your HP is at 650. So, like, you know, I'm off, right? Maybe my estimate of, like, how far this bar is into the next bar is off. But very, very clear what your HP is without even having to click on your hero. And then if I were to guess what the HP of this Venge is right now, I would guess that it's somewhere around 160, 170, right? 180. Very close. Right? You don't necessarily need to click heroes, you need to use what information is available. Again, what HP is this Jug at? This Jug is probably at, like, 380, 400. Like, you can guess very, very close without even clicking on the heroes. Granted, you could also just click on the heroes, but sometimes you don't necessarily have the APM or the movements to be able to do that. I think if you watch someone who's got like 600 APM, they'll just be clicking on heroes constantly. Other thing that we kind of missed because I was focused on your laning phase is that the TA basically just ran at you through the top rune. So, you know, keeping a better idea on the minimap. Granted, I wasn't watching it either because I was focused on your laning phase, but like you should see this TA gank coming. Unless that's a ward of them. Is that their ward? That's their ward. So you don't have a ward. So it's a little bit more difficult for you to anticipate that then. My bad. You basically just have to see that TA left her lane. And I don't think that's enough reason to play defensive as an offlaner. So this is probably just a good rotation through a lane or a river that's not warded by the TA. So I think this is a good play by TA. If she knows that there's no ward there. If she doesn't, then it's bad play. But this is also like an escape plan, right? Like here you dive after her. And I think right now, if you just drop a Fire Spirit on her and continue your dive through, you live, right? Because you can just let your dive go back to here, and I don't think Jug will be able to chase you down. Granted, TA will definitely be able to chase you down. But, you know, a lot of things what Pheonixes will do is you actually dove into range to get stunned, so you took a lot of extra damage, and then TA kind of cleans you up. But you're doing all of this without your items. Like, biggest thing. Like, one easy way to get a kill with Pheonix, especially when you hit level 6, is to pick up a TP scroll. Because what you end up doing is you end up like diving in, throwing your fire spirits out, you get a kill, and then you sun with the kill, and then right after the sun you can dive to a really weird position and TP away. So like that's like a really cool thing you can do with Pheonix. It's very specific to that hero. But you know, that might have saved you in this situation if you'd had a TP. Granted, you get first blood, this is really nice, you know, overall I would say your laning phase went okay, but you know, you're playing against players who aren't as good. So, you know, your mistakes don't get punished, and your good play isn't necessarily getting rewarded that much. Like, I'm gonna do a replay where I watch Universe play the offlane, and you'll see how flawlessly how he plays it. In that he is constantly doing something, and he is constantly thinking about how he's going to impact the game. It is really impressive to watch. He's one of my favorite ones to watch. So here you go Glove of Haste, you finish your Tranquil Boots, like going for a Midas, pretty standard build. Again, Fire Spirit for no reason. That Fire Spirit hits 2 heroes, which is really nice, but again, it was a Fire Spirit for no reason. Again, another Fire Spirit for no reason. So 2 out of those 4 Fire Spirits made no sense. That one was good, because he was like committing himself to the last hit, so I like that one. This one was like, you didn't react properly. This one was, the last one was okay. But now you're kind of like playing defensive, looking for your sun to come back up. Maybe you're just harassing, that kind of thing, to sort of set up another kill opportunity. Your kill opportunity on Jug is pretty low because he can just spin and run away and negate all of your damage. So like you're not necessarily targeting him, you're looking to target this Venge. This is good though. You disjoint the wave, you get some farm. You're a little slow on your Fire Spirit there, but you end up hitting the Jug. Let's see, does he have to spin? No. But he's low HP, he didn't skill ward. Real bad play by him. Here again, he kind of just sunned in the bad position. So this is again one of those situations where clicking. So we'll see like the exact position of where you clicked to dive, and then you'll see how the dive mechanic sort of works with that. So right here, you click right. Where's your mouse? That's where you click to dove. And so we'll watch your path. Do you see how your path goes to the left of that? So if you're wanting to dive on top of someone, click to the right of them. And you click to the right of them about that far. It's like a mechanical thing, playing Pheonix. But like here, you basically get lucky. That's the reason you don't die. Like Omni Slash is here, for sure, gonna kill you. But if he doesn't bounce to this creep. So if he bounces to you again, you die. But you get lucky and he bounces to the creep. So that's the reason you live here. Granted, your sun's in a really bad placement, but you're targeting the wrong hero here. You're trying to kill a hero that has magic immunity on a hero that does like 100% magic damage. Like, this Venge is 100% dead, right? You got to be thinking about who you can kill. And I think in this situation, I would be clicking, like, this Venge is going to go right here. She's going to walk down and then back up, right? So instead of diving this direction to try to kill their carry, which I think is greedy, you want to dive here. Like, I would click here so that you dive through the Venge, and I would sun right here. And this is a free kill on the Venge. And then the Jug is in a tough situation where he's like, well, I got Omni, but now it's a full HP Pheonix, and you got Dive and Spirits up, and then maybe you go fight him. Do you see what I mean? Micro decisions. They're very, very hard, but this bad decision sort of comes out of not understanding the lane. Right? You can't kill Jug unless he messes up really, really bad. Target the guy you can kill. You know, you got First Blood killing the Venge, right? And then Jug killed you. Whereas here, like, I think both of them are going to get away. We'll see. Oh, you end up hitting the Jug here. Wow. So you ended up outplaying the Jug a little bit. It's nice. Then you hit a nice Spirit. Bad Fire Spirit. You get 2 kills. Like, do you see what I mean? like, you're making plays. Like, you're making what I would say are, like, average, like, bad plays, but they're also making bad plays. So if we go back and watch this from the Venge's perspective, like, go a little bit further back. So like here, Venge gets a nice stun, you dive the wrong direction, you stun in a really weird place. What does Venge do? Venge is like, oh, this would be a great time to farm this creep, right? Like, this makes no sense. Like, you're about to come up and you're about to have both your spells active, and then he just like chills there for another second. But do you see what I mean? Like, your bad plays are better than their bad plays. And this is why, like, the laning phase is so funny. Because, you know, if you learn to make good plays and be really good at making, you'll just run over these guys. You'll have a ridiculous amount of farm. You'll shut down their farm. You'll be a huge impact. You could be a carry. Like, this is, I don't know, you're like 3 point... What are you, Podrick? What's your MMR at? So, party MMR 3.7k. Like, this is pretty high skill Dota, right? And you see all these mistakes. This is 8 minutes in. Like, what the frick? Right? I think that's enough, dude. 3.5. Alright, 3.5k MMR. But you're owning, right? You're 3-1. I guess 2-0. Wait, hold on. 3-1. Yeah, you're doing great. Right? Easy game. 8-minute Midas Tranquils. Like, I think you played really, like, your stats look really good. You've got a lot of farm. Everything looks good from that standpoint, but I would say that your play could use a lot of revision. And then here you kind of get the fruits of your labor. Put your Tranquils down. Set your Tranquils down before you go for last hits. Right? Like, it's a little bit risky if there's like a melded TA sitting here. Like, when you set your Tranquils down, you got to think what's going to steal it. And usually it's Invis heroes. Sometimes it's not worth it to set them down. But like, here you definitely could have set them down and then taken advantage of the regen. Again, like, this is another situation where you're thinking about your gold, right? You're at 1,500 gold, which is really close to your Midas, which means that you're likely to just want to get a last hit or two without dying. And so I think at this point, like, I would have set down my boots to get this one last hit right here. But I also would have probably just fire spirited this wave down and maybe even used dive just to get rid of this creep wave as fast as you can. Get those 2 last hits, send out your Midas, and then when you send out your Midas, you get your gold. Like here, maybe you just fire spirit. You know, like, you're a little scared of the Jug, but you know Omni's on cooldown, so as long as you're not close to him, you know, you should not die to him. And you also kind of want to not allow this tower to like push into it. Like here, you fire spirit, so this is good. So you're thinking the same thing. But you end up getting 1 out of 4 last hits under the tower. And then here, because your HP is kind of low, and like, I wouldn't be going back to lane right now, I would be sending out my Midas, and I would be walking towards this side camp, or this big camp right here. This one. And I would be Midasing this big creep, and then maybe I go back to base and I grab a TP or heal up, or, you know, maybe in that time my Tranquils heals me or whatever. But that's what I think I would be doing. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's your first 10 minutes. First 10 minutes, you've got lots and lots to improve on. I think if you improve the first 10 minutes of your game, you're going to find, like, that was a really good fire spirit. you're going to find that that's going to have the highest gains in terms of winning you the game, because winning your lane is really important. And I think, you know, while you picked Pheonix at a really bad time, they didn't really pick a good lineup to punish you. Here you're kiting him, which is good. He probably has Omni up, but you end up sunning and then you just die because he right-clicks you because you didn't put down a spirit. Again, this is use your dive. Just at least make him run a little bit before you sun. So, but pretty good, right? Minus Tranquils, offlane. First 10 minutes, you know, you've kind of shut down the Jugs farm a little bit. I mean, he's got 52 CS, so it's not the best, but Venge is definitely very poor. Where's Venge? Yeah, she's got Boots Magic Stick, so yeah, that's my advice for you. I think that's enough, so I'm gonna stop watching this replay. But